Well, once again, welcome to church, everyone. I was gone last Sunday on vacation. It seemed like I've been gone like a month. But it's just been like 3 or 4 days. But happy to be back. And I heard a little church mouse told me that the preacher who was here last week, Beth, she can pray fast. And she can do sermons fast. So you could beat all the people to Denny's when you get done. Today, I hope you have reservations. I'm just saying. No, it won't be too long. We have that amazing part of the letter that was written to the Hebrews. That's called the letter to the Hebrews. It's our second reading today. And it goes through a long rehearsal and a reminder of some of the people in the Old Testament, especially Abraham, and then his sons. And it says all the things that he did, even though either he didn't know what was ahead of him, he had to have faith and trust and hope. He didn't know what was ahead of him when he left his hometown, and he believed that God had told him to go to another land without knowing where the land was. He was supposed to leave his home and go somewhere else, even though he didn't know where he was going. That's why he's called the father of faith, or the one who is the most faithful in the Old Testament. Because he had to trust and hope and imagine and envision what God was leading him towards without actually seeing it. Well, he gets to the promised land, at least his sons do, and they start settling down. But you see, the Hebrew letter says he didn't get to see it. He actually lived his whole life without getting to where God had called him to. Which is a little nerve-wracking for those of us who come after, because it could be that God is leading you to a place that you will not actually see in your own lifetime. The things you hope for may not come to pass, and yet God still asks you to trust and try to keep your vision alive and use your imagination as what could be and build your hope up, because some things you will see come to pass and some things you will not see right away. That's kind of nerve-wracking, but that's what they say faith is. Faith is the substance of things that are not seen yet. So, with that as the beginning, I'm going to take you back to a little image from my own childhood, if you don't mind. There were some kids here at the first service who were baptized, so we were able to talk about this image from childhood, and they could relate to it, so I'll share with you too. You know, there's a time period when you're a kid, from about maybe age 8 to about 14, when you can't drive yet, but you have this magical instrument called a bicycle. And you become like a bicycle wrangler. You can do things with a bike as a child that you would never think of doing as a kid. As an adult. So for about 5 years there, your bike becomes your horse. Your bike becomes your car. And you can do anything on that bike. And I did. It was fun. Not like the kids today who are like the guys who fly through the air. Not the X game kind of bike, but just, your bike, you go everywhere. You take it to school, or you can take it to the store, you play around on it on your street with the other kids. Your bike is really important. So, I grew up in Virginia, and if you didn't notice, Virginia's a long way from Texas, and it's not quite as flat as Texas. Have you ever been on that road? I had not traveled it, I don't think. The road from roughly here to El Paso, straight and flat. I have to get out of the hill country. Straight and flat. And you can see the same road for probably 20 miles. Well, they don't have many of those roads in Virginia, but there are a couple places that you can ride your bike in Virginia where it's very flat. I'm thinking of a path, a bike path that goes along the Potomac River called the C&O Canal Bike Path. It's almost perfectly level, just if it slants just enough to get the canal going in one direction. In any case, it's long and flat. And as a kid, you sort of liked it because it was flat and it didn't have to go uphill. So you just put it in about maybe 5th gear. In my days, 10 speeds were like the new thing. Sorry to tell you how old I am. The 10 speeds were new and cool, and you could put it in about 5th gear and you had to pedal. But you could go pretty fast. On this gravel trail, the canal's to your left, a very small canal, just enough for a barge. River off to your right, and it goes all the way from Harper's Ferry to Washington, D.C. That's where the fall line is, the Great Falls. That's why they have the canal, so you can get around the falls. But you could pedal your bike there. You had to do a little work, but you could go pretty fast. But there were a couple of hills in Virginia, especially when I first started riding a bike. I don't know if you ever had this as a kid on a bike, but the strategy when the hill gets too steep is you kind of go back and forth. You pedal up as far as you can go, and then you swoop across the side of the street and get some speed up so you get up a few more feet higher. So like the reverse of skiing. You know, when you're going too fast and you ski down like this, well, if you're on a bike, you kind of swoop back and forth because the hill is too steep to go straight up. Well, there was a couple of those. One was 9th Road in Virginia next to my house, very steep. And then finally, you couldn't do any more, and you kind of go real slow, and you sort of collapse and fall off the bike to one side, and you have to walk it up. So some hills are just too steep. Of course, there's a bonus to hills that are that steep. Yeah. There's a long coast down the other side. And you can go and go and go, and you can go so fast that you can't keep your pedals going. It's faster than you can pedal. So I share with you those 3 images. C&O Canal, very flat. 9th Road, very steep. Had to walk up. And then going down the hill. If you get a nice long hill, it feels like you can fly. I just want to mention that when it comes to your life with God, and my life with God, your walk with Jesus, or in this metaphor, your bike ride with Jesus, sometimes it's flat. It's just flat. And you got to work a little bit, but it's not too hard. It can even get a little boring, like driving your car out to El Paso. It's just day after day or mile after mile. It's not really interesting. It's just one day after another. It's flat. You can do it, but it's flat. It's kind of boring. And in those days of your life when life is flat, you have to keep your faith alive. You have to be like Abraham. You can't see the end of the road. You can't even see where you came from. It's just day after day of grinding it out. It's like grinding it out. But you got to keep your faith alive. Keep your vision alive, your hope alive, your vision of God, your hope for God, your faith in God when it's flat. Of course, the flip side is also when you're going up the hill, and now life is hard, and you may have to get off the bike, and you may have to walk. You still, like Abraham, you got to keep your faith alive. You think God is gone. You think, why should life be this hard? And you have many more questions than answers. And you don't feel God around very much. And life is just hard. Probably painful. You got to be like an Abraham and say, you know, I didn't know it was going to be this hard. I really didn't. If I thought it was going to be this hard, I wouldn't have started. But you have to keep your vision ahead of you and your goal ahead of you. God is present, or God, if you can't feel God now, God will return. Your heart will have a springtime again. You'll be able to ride again. Keep your hope alive and your trust alive and your vision alive. Your imagination's got to work overtime because you can't see a thing. it's pitch black and you can't see, and going up that hill, you must keep your faith alive. Like in the gospel story today, keep your lamp lit. I know it looks like it's very dark, middle of the night. He says, keep your lamp lit at all times. And there's the other, going down the hill, piece of cake. That's when things are going your way. That's when you should buy a lottery ticket that day. And you think, God is so good, and life makes sense, and there's meaning and purpose. I can do one thing after another. I feel very strong. I feel confident. It's a pretty joyous time. You can coast. You can't even pedal fast enough to coast as fast as you're going. I don't think I said that right, but you get the idea. And that time, faith is pretty simple. Easy to believe, easy to trust, easy to go to church, easy to pray, easy to live life. God seems close. Jesus and you are best friends. You talk to Him every day. Anyway, in all three areas, whether life is flat, or life is uphill, or life is downhill, keep your faith alive. Keep your lamp lit. Keep your vision clear. All those people that the letter said in Hebrews, so they kept their faith alive even though they didn't see the promise coming to them. They didn't see the goal come. Because they died before their vision came to fruition. So they're held up as the people of faith. The people who can trust and know God and be with God and keep God's presence with them and keep their vision alive and their hope alive and their faith alive, whether life is flat or downhill or uphill. And I'm betting you've experienced all three. I have. I bet you are in a place of one of those three places. And like the people of the Hebrews say, and the letter to Hebrews says, keep your hope alive, keep your faith alive, keep your lamp lit. Even though life may be uphill right now, and it's really hard, or downhill, and it's really easy, or flat, and it's really boring. Keep your faith alive at all times. I offer this to you in the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.